Alright guys, here I have a NP241C passenger drop out of a 90 Suburban. Picked this up because I'm putting an LS in my truck, and of course you know how it goes. All I could find was a 32 spline, and so while I plan on keeping the 32 spline in case I ever need it in the future, in order to mate this to the 4L60E I have for my 5.3, I need to put a 27 spline. So I got this 27 spline input out of the junkyard, out of a driver drop, a lot more common. I'm going to go ahead and strip this thing apart, put it in. I haven't seen any NP241 teardowns on YouTube, so I thought I'd go ahead and record this. So I just have a normal set of sockets, and definitely gotta have some of these heavy duty snap ring pliers. Tried getting the one apart in the junkyard without them, and I destroyed all the snap rings. Don't want to destroy any on this one. Alright, I'll go ahead and start by taking the tail housing off. Here's the tone ring for the VSS. I actually do have one of these as well. I was going to try adapting it to my NP208, but I was able to find one of these instead. So. Alright, after a bit of figuring, I realized that there's two pry holes on the sides there with the washers that allow you to pop the case in half. So I got the two halves apart. Yeah, don't try and pry the oil pump out there. It's got that tube that goes down into the pickup. If you pry it off, you'll break that. So I'm actually hoping I can get this out without having to take the front output off. No. Snap ring there. So they put that down. Alright, so I believe at this point the only thing left to do is to pull the cover off the front. 6 bolts, 4 bolts on the front. There's a snap ring. Let me go drain the oil out of this real quick. Now one thing it seems that a lot of people aren't aware of is the fact that you're actually supposed to fill this case with ATF, not gear oil, which is what this one had been filled with. Alright, so like I said, you got 4 bolts right up there. Alright, so there's only one more snap ring holding in this whole input shaft and low range gear assembly. There you go. All I need to do now is see this flathead again. It's another internal snap ring here. And there you go. Alright, so now we're going to install the new input gear. As you can see, I've already installed it into the planets. I'm reusing these thrust washers. Alright, so there we go. You put it in. Go ahead and put the input snap ring back on. So get that seated in there all the way. Snap ring. There we go. Alright, so that snap ring is in. I'm going to be leaving that part of it until later, simply because I don't have any RTV here right now. So the first part I took it out, it's going back in. It's your low range selector. Now back in. Next is the four-wheel drive shift fork assembly. A little bit difficult to get to go back into the hole in the side of the case. Alright, finally we have the output shaft and front drive gear. So the large snap ring goes back right there. Snap ring is seated. So all that's left to do now is put the case halves back together after slapping a bunch of, well, not about a bunch, but some RTV on here. Alright, got the case back together. It's pretty straightforward. You need to be a little careful when you're putting the two case halves back together. There's a dowel pin on each of those sides, and so I got to sit down. I couldn't get it to go quite all the way. It's still about half an inch. Just a little bit of wiggling, and I realized those dowel pins are there. Dropped right on. I still haven't tightened it down. I just snugged them down a little bit. Let the RTV set and then tighten them down. Same with that. To get the snap ring that goes on the input shaft right under here, you do have to lift up on the output shaft. You have to lift up on the output shaft for a moment to get the snap ring on. And then finally, when you're putting the second half of the tail housing back on, to make sure there's this notch right here. The notch needs to be facing the bottom right side. Otherwise, the bolt holes don't line up. They're not symmetrical. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward assembly, pretty much exactly like taking it apart.